Welcome back to the Fire You Carry podcast. My biological father is 79 years old and he's stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And, there's been my experience with death is always super challenging, but there's also a lot of beauty in it. Because when my mom got sick with us and it was clear that her end was near, there was periods of time that there was no like resentment or no whatever, and we were able to squash like decades old beef. And like I just saw her as a human being, not as some person that you put up on a pedestal for a long time. And then the great Pops, who has probably one of my favorite episodes on here, who was highly involved in our Fire Up program. And when he was diagnosed and they gave him a 6-month to live, stage 4 cancer with 6 comorbidities, like almost everything went out the window communication wise. Yeah. And it wasn't a father-son thing anymore. It was just like bro out time. It was like I called every day. We talked every day. When I drive home, I have an hour and a half commute or so. And that was the first phone call. If anybody knew Pops, he could fill an hour and a half of talking easily.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting. It's sad to watch these people get frail. And my dad is my biological father now is ill. But, we had a chance today, this morning, that he lives close by and he's still out there doing a 2 to 3 mile walk jog. And I know he does this. Our kids see him as we drive past to go to school. There's this little tiny white Irishman running around. And my hat is off to him. He literally has a colostomy bag because it's colorectal cancer. And so if you guys know a colostomy bag, but he's got his shoes on and he's got his grinding and he's got Strava on. He's trying to get his mile time down. And so this morning, it was just happened to be one of those unicorn mornings where he's very regimented with this thing. And he always goes at 8:15 on the dot. This is never a good time to go. For us, if I'm home, that's the time the kids go to school. I like to get them out the door, breathe life into them, help them with their homework, whatever. But this morning, the kids were all dialed. They were ready early, breakfast made, homework done. And I said, "Hey, are you going on your run walk?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving at 8:15. Yeah. And I'm like, "I'm coming up." And I just threw on some shorts. And dude, my man's putting in. He walks the first mile, and walk in quotation at 14-minute mile.
Oh, wow.
The second mile, he kind of turns it up a little bit and does a couple intervals. In the third mile, he's doing HIIT. We're doing sprinting for 30. Now, his version at 79 with stage 4 and a colostomy bag, we ended up doing a 12-minute mile.
That's
because,
rad.
And of all the things, we haven't had always the best relationship. It's been a lot of tough, but it was like a really neat thing about squashing like old beef and just enjoying him as the man. And I could see this is my biological father, that the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that like, it was really cool to watch somebody still like privately grinding in his own way. Yes, he has chemo again, his 12th round, his bones hurt, everything's happening. And we really just didn't talk much because he was kind of grinding. I was able to basically push him a little bit and pace him. And he's like, "Oh, that was great, man. We got a fast last mile. And we ended up doing 3 miles." And he's looking at his Strava. And now look, this was an easy thing for me. It was an easy workout. We did 2 14-minute miles and 1 12. But it was really joyous to be out in the sun watching this old man. And I celebrated him at the end of this like he just won the marathon. You know what I mean?
Man, that brings up a lot. I am really loud in my own ears. Do I sound abnormally loud on your side?
Not even close.
Okay, good. I apologize. So, dude, right off the bat, I mean, it speaks volumes. I don't know if it's this way for women, but it's so cool that as men, we can go out and do an activity like that, and there don't have to be a lot of words, but there's that connection there. There's that father to son healing, bonding, just that time together is super valuable. And that it doesn't have to be super wordy, but just being together in that scenario is awesome. And it doesn't have to be dad's got stage 4 cancer to enjoy that type of thing. I mean, that's why guys go golfing and fishing and, doing things like that together, because we don't always have a lot of words. And I think for most men, we really don't share the deeper stuff on a verbal level. We're not as good at it as the females, but that's so encouraging, and it's awesome. It's so good that you have that opportunity right now, especially with the circumstances that your dad's going through. I mean, that's just an amazing blessing that he lives close, right? That you don't have to drive to another state to see him. You could just go around the block, essentially. That's really cool. This brings up a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead and hit your question.
Well, it's a pretty serious question. So if you had input on that, you do that first.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, nobody needs to get into but I had a thriving relationship with Pops, who was my stepdad, Leading Broussard III. And he was, I look back now, and it was a very challenging upbringing, having, you're living in multiple homes, but I look back at it as a blessing. I had two dads. I had one giant black man who was just the salt of the earth, and I had this other dad who at many times I thought was neurotic and insane and very regimented. But I can see it now. About the work ethic that he put in and the sacrifices that he made for us, being a 47-year-old dad myself, and in essentially the peak of my career where I'm trying to grind and provide. And I can see what he tried to do to his best ability with his pre-existing conditions and afflictions. And it was very cool to it was a lesson learned of why am I hanging on to anything? Why would I see anything? I saw this as a heroic man that helped raise me and form who I am today. And that to see him grinding, it just seemed like we just hit the day today, and that all squash beef was done. How can I help you? Do you need me to pick you up from, chemo? And if there's anything it was just a very cool, I don't know, full circle moment where I saw what an amazing thing. I'm not putting that out there, but let's say I know, if there was something, you had some sort of comorbidity or you're sick, to have North pick you up and take you on a run and to help you with some of the medical things. As a father, that would be a dream, right? And have you created that relationship now and the support over the years where that is something that they would want to be there for you, be of service for you, and be a bro. And that was definitely a bro moment. It wasn't a father son. He didn't need anything. We were just broing out. And there's this funny thing. My wife has 3 sisters. Your wife has sisters. They have to sit there, and it's nonstop talking. Nobody gets a word in. There's no silence at all. And they always said hey, you and your dad just sat and watched a 3-hour football game. Nobody said a word. And we got up and gave each other a hug and said, that was super fun. We should do that again.
The best time.
And that's it. Men need kind of an activity. It doesn't need to be vocalized. It just doesn't need, we barely said any words because he was out of breath most of the time. And we both felt like that was really powerful.
Yeah. Man, I got 2 questions now.
All right, here we go.
So you've been through losing Pops, you've been through losing your mom, and now you're dealing with this with your dad. And maybe we don't really have the answer to this question, but the question for me becomes, why do people like those 3 individuals in your life, why do they keep pushing? Why do they keep driving? Why not just give up when you know that it's stage 4 cancer and you've got 6 months, like they told Pops? What is it inside of those people that makes them keep going? Because it seems like it would be super easy, and maybe that's not the right way to say it. That's probably making too light of it. But I think there's probably a lot of people that would default to just, I'm done, checking out on the couch, definitely not going out and doing 3 miles on I know it's warm in Marietta, even in the morning. Not to mention all the other stuff that Pops and your mom did with the family, and that, why? Why keep going?
I think it's different for every person. That the three people, my parents that I've seen, have gone through this. So my mom had cardiac failure,
Yeah.
so she had no cardiac output and needed a heart transplant. And so she could walk 5 steps and be out of breath or have a
Mhm.
syncopal episode. So she's not grinding, but there was a mental spirit and there was a emotional spirit to say she was going to seize the day and be the best grandparent you've ever seen on the planet and be so unbelievably present, like cell phone turned off, sitting on the floor playing blocks with my children for 12 hours. That was her fight. That was her essentially her grinding. Pops, if you've ever heard him talk, had more than 8,700 people that called him his best friend, right?
Yeah.
And so what he pushed in now, like part of his problem, he was diabetic, hypertension, high cholesterol, 18 other comorbidities. So he wasn't out there grinding miles. In fact, we were always mad at him that he wasn't doing nothing. But what he did, what he did do is he had almost every person all day long. We looked at his phone after he passed, and there was just hundreds of thousands of calls and
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
My biological dad, who I ran this with this morning, I feel like he's grinding because this is what he's done for 50 years.
Mm.
This guy, before exercise was a thing, before there was podcasts, before there was nothing,
Yeah. Yeah.
he was the one that said, I got to get the demon out of me.
Mm.
That's where I got getting the demon out of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he worked as a high school principal, and either in the morning or late evening, he's doing laps. Your high school principal after work is doing laps on the high school track. And he was always pushing. He was always pushing to get his mile time down, to get his, how many pull ups and push ups. He always did calisthenics. He's done this for 50 years.
Yeah.
He's not going to stop. This is who he is. This is the habit that he formed that became his identity. And if you see him, I've taken him to some of his appointments and gone to the treatment, which is super depressing.
Yeah.
Everybody's hooked up doing chemo.
Yeah.
His oncologists are saying there is one person out of all the people that I've ever met that has stage 4 cancer with a colostomy bag continuing to run.
Mm.
There's that's it.
Yeah.
And he didn't start this like when he got stage 4. He started this 50 years ago, and he can't.
Right.
And so that gives me hope because we talk about habit formation and that the things that you do become who you are. So Nole does CrossFit. And even though that's not his identity, people know Nole now as the functional fitness guy. And I believe that, like, the habits that we form now, good and bad, will last us, I think, your whole life, and obviously I think this is helping him through a horrific mental, physical, emotional battle. I think he still has his thing. That's one of his tools that he uses and he's used for his whole life to manage stress, to stay in shape, to do all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I kind of made that sound like the physicality part of that was really the whole thing. But obviously in the context of Pops and your mom, the physicality wasn't the thing, but the relationships were. And I mean, either way, they're, all three individuals that we're kind of talking about right now are leaning in and are still doing things, being functional, whether that's, getting down on the ground with your girls and playing blocks, reading books, or with Pops talking to everybody in the world, or your dad out getting after it, physically, even though any doctor would tell him probably you need to slow down, you need to take it easy, you need to give your body rest. But all of those things, each one of those examples, those are all optional, and it would be pretty easy and understandable to kind of disconnect and pull away from those things instead of leaning into them. So then that brings me to the next question. When it's your time to go, we're all going to go, right? We're all going to die. Nobody gets out of this thing alive. when it's your time, do you want to go slow and know that you're going, or do you want to go suddenly where it's a surprise? Have you ever thought about this?
I have.
Ah,
And, you know, when you're younger, the adage is live fast, die young, right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
you want to go out in a blaze of glory, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure if you were
Here
an
for a
army,
good time, not a long time.
yeah, and I'm sure if you were a ranger at the time, you died, you know, in a firefight,
Yeah, a blaze of glory. Yeah.
like that's, you know, what movies would say would be the most respectable
Right.
thing.
That didn't happen. Yeah.
Now, listen, I've seen from experience myself, we took in Harmony's 100-year-old grandmother who was destitute to the state of Arizona.
Right.
We put her on hospice and brought her to our house.
Yeah.
At 100 years old, every person in her life besides Harmony has passed away.
Wow.
That seems sad to me.
Yeah.
And she had dementia and Alzheimer's.
Right.
And so one day she would know what house she's in, and the next day she'd have no idea why she was in some strange family's house in Marietta.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seemed really difficult.
Mm.
That isn't what I would want. But I do think seeing how Pops reacted to his cancer diagnosis. Now he beat his 6-month, you know, death sentence
Yeah.
that they gave him
Yeah.
by about a year and a half.
Yeah.
But he took that as an opportunity, like that country music. I went skydiving,
Right.
I went, but and
Rocky Mountain climbing. Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know if there's no guarantee I wake up tomorrow.
Right.
Like no guarantee. And yes, I should live my day, be completely present and say, if there was no tomorrow, what would today look like? What would I care about? I care about my friends and my family only, right? And probably my relationship with Christ to make sure that that is right, you know, and but I do think somewhere in the middle of those two is where I would prefer. Now, knowing that I have zero control, my time could end tomorrow, God could call me home. Somewhere in the bit. Now, I would love to be a grandfather. I look at your dad, Jeff Lilly, as like, how many grandkids does he have?
Well, I don't know. I just know that when my parents tell other people how many grandkids they have, people don't believe them. I'd have to do math. I can't do that on the spot.
Yeah, and it seems like your dad and your mom, they have done unbelievable ministry work, and to see how he pours into the kids and you and the rest, I'm like, that seems to me like a full circled life, a life well lived, you know? And so, yes, I would love to see my daughters get married. I would love to be a grandparent.
Yeah.
I would love to be in that season of life at one point. And so if I had to choose, which I don't, I would love to get at least to that point in my life. What about you?
My dad, gotta finish this note or I'll forget. When I grew up, my dad would talk about the fact that he wanted to die slowly, but he didn't mean it in the context of like a slow, long drawn out illness. I don't think. I think he just meant, well, no, I don't think. I know. He just meant that whenever it was, however he was going, he wanted to know in the moment that he was dying, that he was dying. So he didn't want to die in his bed. You know, he didn't want to go to sleep and wake up dead. And his reasoning was, and he would say this tongue in cheek, but he was also deadly serious. But his reasoning was, death is something that as human beings, we only get to experience one time. And so he wanted to experience it. He wanted to know,
Wow.
like, I'm going out. I think there's another level of that question. And I never really got into a philosophical discussion with my dad about this. I just thought it was a pretty savage, kind of hardcore thing to believe and to say. So I adopted that as my own. I said, I've said that. I've probably said it on the podcast, that I feel the same way, that like, I want to know I'm going out. But when you take it and you kind of extrapolate it further out into, you know, an extended illness, essentially is the context where you would really know, like, I have 6 months or whatever they give you. That does give you the opportunity to lean into, like you said, your relationship with Christ, your relationship with your friends and family, to rebuild bridges, to do all that stuff. It gives you that opportunity. But what comes with that opportunity is suffering. right?
Mm.
None of the individuals that pass away like that, which is so many people in our lives, it's not easy. It's not an easy road. In fact, for a lot of them, it's hellish. It's very awful, physically, mentally, everything. So you're buying that chance and that opportunity with suffering and pain, essentially, which I think is why a lot of people, when this comes up, and it's interesting how many times you can have this conversation, because it does come up. There are, everyone's aware. Some people are more honest about it than others, but death is a thing that gets talked about. I feel like most people you talk to say the same thing, that they want to die asleep in bed. They want to wake up dead. And I get that. I totally get that. The question though, beyond that then becomes, well, what do we do now? Because you said it perfectly. I could not wake up tomorrow, right? I can want to die in this certain way. I can want to know ahead of time. I can want to have time. I can want whatever I want, but it's not up to me. We could die in a car accident on my way home from work tomorrow, or I could die an old man at 92 from whatever. I have no idea. So, but does that change how we live? Because I think a lot of people kind of assume that there'll be time for stuff later. There'll be time to fix that relationship with my brother later on. I don't have to do that right now. But the reality is that we don't know that. And we're not guaranteed a trip to the doctor where he says, "Hey, Noel, you've got 4 months to live. Get your affairs in order," right? We don't have that. And of course, I think most of us, I don't know, I shouldn't say most of us. I struggle with that part of it. I don't even know that I would want that. I don't know. It's an interesting opportunity. But I think that the lesson for us who are young is live our lives ready, right? Be ready. And
Ready.
not ready in the sense that, I'm going to die tomorrow. It's any minute now. It's going to happen. So I got to make sure everything's perfect. I'm financially ready. I've got all my relationships in order. I never go to bed without everything dialed in. Like, of course, that's not realistic, and that's not a healthy way to live either. But to never leave things out there hanging that would be a regret for you or for the people around you if you did end up in a horrendous car accident or some other thing that took you, quote unquote, too soon, which also brings up a whole nother interesting topic. But
Well, this made me reflect this morning. I thought you brought up some great stuff, but I think it's reality that, in a good way, the fire department, being a paramedic in Los Angeles, has changed me. I
yeah,
was very scared of death, or as this unknown thing, and culturally nobody talks about it.
right.
And the first time I remember touching a dead body and listening for apical pulse was terrifying, right? And then
Yeah,
trying to roll a body looking for lividity,
right.
or rigidity,
Yeah,
like that was uncomfortable. And now you can do it and have a sandwich on the way back from the call. I'm very comfortable with death.
right.
But that's also in a good way helped me realize that death is imminent for all of us, right? And that walking through my own personal family members' deaths, like that's coming for me too, right? And so it almost gave me a peace to know that, like, one, that helped strengthen my faith to say, like, I have to know. And there was a while in early Christianity, Noel, that, like, I thought good works, like if I did enough things, you could get to heaven.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
realized, like, you're not saved by good works. You're saved for good works, and that there's grace, right? And so, as much as I fail every day in sin, and all the sins of my past, which were ample, like, He
Same.
still saves me, and I have grace, and know to the core of my being now, where I am going is eternal bliss,
Mm.
because I said a simple prayer in my heart and vocalized it in front of people. And so there's peace there, that I'm not scared of death. Now, that doesn't mean I don't do some of the preparatory things. I noticed in some of my parents and siblings, they weren't prepared. And so, like, it forced me, watching my mom pass away, is that our family got a trust. not because we have any assets,
Right.
right? But it's because we do own a home. It would, if I died tomorrow, it would be significantly challenging for my wife and daughters. So by getting a trust, putting some intention to that, having all the basically the house, whatever assets we do have, the cars, and she has access to all those. My life insurance is in there. There's a PDF of it, and like I'm prepared to protect my family so that they can technically live. They would actually have more money in my death than they do now, and that she would be protected. She could keep the home. She could keep her lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to absolutely take, like you brought it up, like I wouldn't, is kind of get some of my affairs in orders, knowing that I'll save, knowing I can't control anything. But to me, it was a wise decision to say, I'm going to prepare for the inevitability. And that would actually help my wife quite a bit. It would help my daughters quite a bit. So, anyways, there was a lot there.
Yeah. No, you bring up a really good point too, in that the Christian perspective, the perspective of somebody who believes in Jesus and is saved, is going to be naturally different than somebody who's not, right? Somebody who doesn't know, or doesn't at least have a belief, a faith in what's going to happen afterward. That changes the discussion entirely, because there is a certain peace that comes with knowing that. And it's like, it's well summed up in Philippians 1:21, which is, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. So that's just the most basic, clearest way to say, I'm going to live for Christ, like Christ, and I'm going to do everything I can in this life to be worthy of the sacrifice that he made for us, the grace that he gave us to save us. But that when I die, it's going to be gain. All that pain and that suffering and everything that happens in life is temporary, and what comes after that is heaven, which is an encouraging thought, and is something that folks that don't believe that, they don't have that assurance. And we obviously take that on faith, right? I've never been on the other side of death, but as much as I can know, I know what I believe, and I know what many other people before me have believed, and also what I've experienced in my own life. So I have faith in that. I have trust in that. There's another interesting aspect of death, since that's what we're talking about today. And this one is the concept that people go too soon, right? You'll hear that when
Gone too soon.
A young person dies, but even sometimes when someone who's like later on in life, I'll give an example. My grandma on my dad's side, I should know how old she was when she passed away, but I would guess she was in her mid to late 60s, which is young. And so in that context, even that is too soon. And my grandma on my mom's side also passed away much earlier than most folks in the United States of America live to. But of course, you go even younger, you go down into our age. Then of course, if you go down to children, right, we say, oh, he went too soon, or they were taken too soon. And from our human perspective, that makes a lot of sense. We should have had X amount of more years with this person, and we feel in a sense robbed. But the other interesting thing, the flip side of feeling that comfort and assurance that comes from faith in Christ and knowing where we're going to go afterward, also comes with the reality that nobody goes too soon. God has his plans, and his plans sometimes are, you get 102 years and you get 7 months, right? And everything in between. And so there really isn't a too soon, not from God's perspective, right? From our perspective, it makes sense. But it's an interesting turn of phrase where we say, though, they went too soon. And really the reality is, no, probably not. And I don't know. The difficult part of that question then becomes, well, what about if somebody takes their own life, right? We have a lot of guys in our line of work, even recently, that have, taken their own lives. It's a tragedy.
My own little brother.
You're right. Right. And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how that works. That one's a hard one, and I won't try to answer it. But it is an interesting thing. And next time you hear somebody say that, don't interject and say, "Well, it's actually not too soon." That's not helpful.
No.
But it's interesting to think about, and it's good. It's good too if you happen to be in a place where you might be afraid of death, or even afraid of your loved ones, your kids, your family. Just recognizing that I can't control that. I have to trust God enough in our context as believers. I have to trust God enough to know that He has a plan, and that if it is Noel's time to go next week, there's not anything that anybody can do to stop that, because that's God's plan. And that can be strangely comforting in a way. It's a little bit dark, but it can be comforting. And of course, I'm sorry, I have to caveat this and say that doesn't mean that we live recklessly, right? It doesn't mean that I go and, free climb, what's that rock? El Capitan, having never climbed anything. Like, we don't tempt fate. But anyway,
No,
I shouldn't throw stuff like that in there. We're not like that on this podcast, but
No.
you know what I mean.
I think it's good. I used to hear old people, and I do have life mentors in my life, like Big Joe Philhaven or your dad or whoever who I look up to. And I say, in a season of life, if they're older, that's where I'd want to be. And I always remember them, like, each season of life is great, and you should cherish that and not wait for the next season, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that this, like, I fought being in my late 40s, and like when I had to go through injuries during the time of injury and being stuck in a neck collar, I'm like, this life sucks. It sucks being 47. I can't skydive. I can't do this. I can't. But I realized that forced me, that you talked about it, that suffering, that pain forced me to rely on other things, not the things that used to give me peace, like CrossFit or signing up for the Highland Games or signing up for a triathlon or powerlifting. Those were like the tools. I had to rely on relationships. I had to rely on my faith. I started reading the Bible more. I started pouring into the Fire Up program. Those gave me purpose. And so I don't know if that's correlated more than I think everything is. But if you're not saved by the good works, you're saved for good works. I feel like that's in correlation with you. I'm no longer skydiving. It's not appropriate for me at my age and my neck injuries. But what I can do is it's a cool season finding my niche, my ministry, which I think is in helping guys in the fire service or the first responder world or in the Fire Up program or even this podcast. It's good to know that. It's good to know that. And, or maybe it's just being the ministry of presence, standing next to my dad as he's doing 14-minute miles with stage 4. And that feels better than anything that I've ever done physically or accomplished or the gold medals. You know what I mean? That feels better now. And I'm more comfortable in my own skin than I ever have been, despite whatever little insecurities or whatever you've had carried your whole life. And so I can now see, like, oh, I see why your dad says, like, he has a death clock on his desk. He had the sands of time that was like calculated how many days he had left on this earth. And I feel like he's a guy that lives in the moment.
Just got a call. Okay. We just got interrupted by, the vicissitudes of life, but this has been a good conversation. This is, in our line of work, we talk about death, but I think it's a good reflection. It's been good.
Noel's an educated man.
What?
How would you spell vicissitudes? How do you say it?
I'm not a spelling. I can use words that I read once or heard someone else say on a podcast. I can't spell them. Let's not be unreasonable.
All right. My take from this: resentment is like drinking poison, hoping the other person dies.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no reason to hold on to these things. There's probably scripture to follow this up, but it's been my experience that just being present and squashing old beef has been probably one of the most freeing things. Feels like chains have coming off of decades old stuff. And that's been really good. I'm glad I'm going through this hard season. And on top of that, it also makes me reflect on my own existence and my own frailty and my own inevitable death, knowing that we will die. I have found it beneficial to take steps to prepare for that. And I think getting a living trust is one of them. If you own a house and you have maybe some life insurance, I think that's super beneficial. And then I think we can all try to be more present. Step 3, and say, if today's the last day, I'm glad I had a conversation with my best buddy, Nole.
Amen. Well said.
This has been the Fire You Carry podcast.
All right, dude, I got a couple of things for you. We just got back from a 4-day trip to Arizona. We're out there visiting our daughter, Avery. She's living out there at Tonto Rim Christian Camp.
Tonto.
Her and her boyfriend work out there. Rad little camp. Really cool spot up in the mountains of Arizona. They're like 6,000 feet up.
What
really
city
cool
is that?
With Tonto Rim. It's like near the state park.
You forget that there is forest up in those areas.
Yeah, real forest. I think the town they're closest to is called Payson. But I got 2 things for you about Arizona. One, if you travel to Arizona or anywhere further back to the east and you have the opportunity to go to Torchy's Tacos.
Oh, dear.
You need to go to Torchy's Tacos. Their logo is like a little cherub-looking devil character, so you'll know you're in the right place. When you go there, you got to get the trailer park taco, and you got to tell them, make it trashy when you order.
Oh,
just
it's
trust
gonna
me,
be good already.
It's a piece of fried chicken, and
Oh.
then just the sauce and the cheese. It's so good.
It's gonna be good.
We went there twice. We ate there twice when we were out there. Second thing, we saw some wildlife. We went out to a place that was like this big natural arch, like a cave underneath. Very cool. I think it's called Tonto Natural Bridge or something. But while we're out there, we saw these javelinas. You seen these?
I have no idea what that is.
It's like a little pig. It looks like a little warthog.
Oh.
Apparently, it's not actually a pig. I don't know. But it looks like a pig. Those were out running around, which was really fun to see. And then, have you ever heard of a coatimundi? Probably pronouncing it wrong.
Why do I know that? I do know that I've heard this reference before, but I don't remember what it was.
I'm not going to belabel the story, but we're looking at these little pigs on this grass, and then we notice there's all these people over by these buildings looking up at the trees, so we go over to see what they're looking at. I did not know that we had animals like this in North America. It looks like a lemur.
Oh.
It's up in the trees. It's got this long tail. It's eating this fruit. We saw a couple of them with their babies up in this tree, like just 10, 15 feet away from us. And I had no idea we had.
They have like the
like
striped
that.
tail or something. I think
their tails aren't really striped, but it looks like if you striped its tail, it would be a lemur, like King Julian from that one film. What was that called?
The New York Pansies.
I love that guy.
Pansy. That guy's fantastic.
He's a.
That's
cool
wild. So
character.
these small pig things and these coatimundis are just running around wild.
Yeah, it was really cool. Go look it up.
Are they protected, or is there a hunting situation?
I don't know. I'm imagining that I know the javelinas are not protected. They're kind of a pest animal, I believe. The coatimundis are probably protected because they look cool and they live in a tree. But it was really funny because as we were standing there looking at them, there were, there's all kinds of people looking at them. And the thing that everyone was saying was, I've never seen these in the wild before. Oh. And they were all from Arizona. It was like a rare thing. And God blessed us with getting to see them. So that was super cool.
That would have been rad if you somehow manhandled one and brought it back for chow at the station. It reminds me of one of my favorite stories. We had some hunter guys that we worked with at 15th.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
Wasn't it Dale who shot it? Was it a pheasant?
I believe it was a pheasant. Yes.
He brought it into the station.
Yes. Smoked it up.
And it was probably, from what I heard from our favorite Captain Kevin Tobio, one of the most inedible meals of possible, and didn't have like buckshot still.
there was still birdshot in the pheasant for sure. And it's a small game bird, so it just got a little overcooked. God bless Dale.
But that's the opposite of
guy.
Joe Barrios caught like a fresh tuna off the
Yeah.
coast of San Clemente and brought it in and
Right.
made some poke, which was one of the more delicious things I've tried.
True. True.
Well, that's fun. It's fun to get out of town. I'm glad you guys had a good time. It's wild to
Yeah.
hear that your daughter is living
I
in another
know.
state with some male.
Yeah. Well, they don't live together.
All right.
They
All
live at the
right.
same camp. You
Good. He
understand?
must die if they did.
Well, yeah. I mean, it'd be a different story. You'd be talking to me from a cell. But oh, we got Nole. Hold on. There's a collect call coming through. Nole's on the line.
And I'd say, let him rot. He's in
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Yeah. He
No.
did what he had to do.
Nole, you cannot murder Avery's boyfriend, but maybe I can. And we'll go dark ops. Just give me the nods and the weaponry.
They'll never know. They'll never find you.
They'll never know, dude.
Except we're talking about it right now. All right, we got to go.
Okay. Hey, sign up. It's a free registration. The 9/11 Stair Climb is actually on Sunday, 9/13. We have about 100 people signed up. It's at our own LA County Fire Museum. And this feels a lot different this year. I think there's going to be a lot of fire engines, a lot of LA County fire guys, and it is a reunion of many of the fire program guys. And if you ever wanted to, you listen to this and you're jumping off the fence, this is something that anybody can do. My wife does it. My kids do it. People are, if you're not fit, you can do 10 floors and ring a bell for somebody who died. It's a memorial. So we'd love to see you. Please sign up. And so we know how much food and drinks to bring. And there's some really cool giveaways, but it's probably my favorite fire family day of the year.
Yeah. Amen. Even if everybody in your family isn't going to climb, just sign up and come out. You can just come hang out, get free food. They're doing raffles. All the rad dudes are going to be there. Just go sign up. Links are in the show notes.
And I would encourage you that we have a memorial that starts at 9:00, where there'll be an invocation. We have our pipes and drums that'll come out, and we have a moment of silence, and it's a very powerful thing. And so I encourage you to come. If you're going to come and you don't want to climb, just come at 9:00 and be a part of what we said we would always do, is never forget.
Go sign up.